When our son was about 2.5 years old, we had to move across town into a new apartment because of some mold issues we had in the place we were living. We knew that the move was going to be an emotional time for our son and wanted to do everything possible to make the move easier on him. But unfortunately, we made some mistakes that, even though they were well-intentioned, made the move harder than it needed to be. From that experience, we learned some new things that made the next move into our home so much easier. So in this video, I'm going to share some of the mistakes we made, what we learned from that experience, and even more tips I've learned since then that'll help your move with your kids be so much easier. I'm going to break down the move into 3 different stages: before, during, and after the move. So in the before stage, the first thing that you can do is talk to your kids about what's happening. Tell them why they're moving, where they're moving to, and help them be involved in the process of understanding why the move has to happen. It's likely going to be an emotional time, so giving them additional time to process and ask questions about it is going to be helpful. Now, I would say maybe wait until you're a few weeks out, or maybe even a week out, depending on the age of your kids, to give them enough time to process, but not so much time that they're just stressed out about it way in advance. I would say the younger the kids, the less time to give, but probably at least a few days, especially if there's friends that they want to say bye to. The next part in the before stage is get them excited about the place that they're moving to. Tell them all the great things about where you're moving to, and do some research and plan a fun activity that you as a family can do. So if they're excited about the things they're going to get to do when they move, it'll help them be a little bit less stressed out about the move. The next thing is explain what's going to be different and what's going to be the same. If you're moving across town, maybe there's going to be a new home and a new neighborhood, but perhaps their school will be the same, their church will be the same, many of their friends will be the same. However, if you're moving to a completely new state or a completely new city, almost everything is going to be new. So explain what's going to be new, and also explain that there are still things that are going to be the same. If you're moving as a family, your family unit is going to stay the same. Perhaps their routine will stay the same, their toys will stay the same, so help them understand that their life isn't completely falling apart. The next thing I'll say is get rest. Getting as much rest as possible is extremely important, not just for your kids, but for you as the parents. Research has shown that moving is hard on kids, and the less sleep they get and the more that they're running around and doing all different kinds of activities, the more stressed out they're going to be, and they're probably going to act out even more. So getting plenty of sleep, having plenty of downtime is going to be really helpful. Really, before your move and all throughout the move, getting as much rest as possible is going to be really important. The next thing in the before stage, which is also kind of at the beginning of the during stage, is let them say goodbye. This was our biggest mistake when we moved with our 2.5-year-old son. We wanted him to feel safe and comfortable in his new home, so we got his bed, all of his toys set up in his new home, and said, hey, look, here's your room with all your stuff in it. The problem was that he was really confused because we didn't want him to be sad by seeing his empty room, and we didn't let him say goodbye to it and see it empty. So even though all of his toys and all of the things he cared about were in his new room, he was confused and thought that we had left stuff behind in his old room because he still had a picture in his head of all of his toys and his toy shelf and his books and everything being in his old room. So letting your kids see the empty room and saying goodbye to it, also saying goodbye to their friends and some of their favorite places around town could be helpful as well. The next part of the move is the during stage. So while you're actually doing the move, the first step is to let your kids be involved. Every kid is different, but allowing your kid to be involved will give them some ownership and help them feel more confident as they move. So whether it's picking out their favorite toys or books and clothes, putting them in a bag, letting them be involved in some way will help them navigate some of the difficult emotions by having ownership over the process. Now, I will say there's a huge part of moving, especially the heavy furniture, that the kids do need to be out of the way. So I would have them be involved with some of the aspects of packing, but then have, if it's a family member or a close friend, take them out for a while all the stuff can be moved, and then bringing that back in and being able to say goodbye to the home once it's empty. The next thing is to pack their stuff last. Let them play with their toys until it's absolutely necessary to pack them. When they're packed last, it also means it's going to be one of the first things you unpack. This will allow them to play with their toys when you're in your new home. The next thing is, if it's possible, let your kids pick out the rooms. Now, this may already be decided by your kid's age or gender or other logistics, But if they can be involved in some aspect of the process, it's going to help them, again, feel like they have ownership throughout the process. If anything else, they'll appreciate that you're thinking about them and asking them. And if they want a room that isn't going to be theirs, sure, you have to say that's not going to be your room. But by asking them and helping them be involved in the process feels good to a kid. The last thing I'll mention for the during phase is having an essentials or a comfort bag that has everything your kids need in it. So this could be their favorite stuffed animals, their favorite books, some toys to play with, essentially something that's going to bring them comfort and help them have something to do during the move. It may be impossible to avoid, but the last thing you want is to be digging through a U-Haul looking for their favorite stuffed animal as they're crying in the car because they're freaking out about moving. Now we get to the after stage. So once you've moved in, the first thing I'll mention does apply to every step of the process, and that is to be patient. There's no way of getting around the fact that moving is stressful. Your kids are going to have a hard time with moving. They're going to act out at really inconvenient times. But if you recognize that them acting out is really a cry for help and a cry for them saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable with what's going on, it can help you as the parent really be patient during the process. The next thing is to spend time with your kids. This is probably one of, if not the most important thing that you can do, is just spend undistracted time with your kids. I know it's really tempting to always be on our phone or always doing something distracted in being around our kids, but when you focus on them and let them know that, hey, I am the one thing that is consistent in your life, that can mean so much to your kids. Kids aren't going to say, hey, I'm having trouble navigating the uncertainty of this new environment. Can you talk to me about the emotions I'm experiencing? They're going to say, hey, can you play with me? Just being with your kids and play with them is going to help them understand that, hey, everything around me is changing, but at least I have someone who cares about me, who is consistent, and you really are going to be their anchor during that time. This is one of the things that I struggled with. My son always said, hey, can you play with me? But I was always busy. I was doing work and doing other stuff. And I've had to learn to just let go of some of those things. Let a project be late or let someone know, hey, I'm going to have to call you back, and really focus on spending time with my son. It's something I've had to learn. It's an ongoing process. It's not easy, but I recognize that there is a lot of fruit that comes from that. The next part is to do fun things and have fun adventures. And this could be the thing that you planned in the before stage. But once you're somewhat settled, it's important to do something that's fun. Whether you're going to a fun museum or going to the beach, or whether you're just going somewhere that's going to help your kids create positive associations with their new home, is going to make a big difference. And the next thing is seek out new friends for your kids. Now, depending on your kid's temperament, some kids have no trouble at all just running into a new group and having fun and making new friends. Other kids need a little bit more help. If your kid needs help making friends, whether it's at school, in your neighborhood, at your church, take it slow. Don't try to force your kids to get in a new environment and make friends when they're really still feeling a lot of uncertainty and nervousness and anxiety. Take some time getting to know other parents and have some limited exposure so that they can get used to knowing what's consistent and what's not consistent in their lives. And the last thing I'll mention is if you're moving with your kids to a new place, use a realtor who is going to be good with kids. One of the things that I do when I'm with a family who's new to the area is I'll often play with kids in the home while mom and dad get a chance to talk about whether the home's a good fit or not. And I'll always have time to talk to them after, but sometimes they just need that time alone away from the kids, and the kids need to be entertained while they talk about it. I have a ton of fun with this. I love playing with kids, and I just recommend that no matter who you work with, make sure that they're not just going to be irritated or bothered by your kids being there. By the way, if you're moving to the Southwest Portland area or Newberg area, I would love to help you out, help you get connected to a community, and help your kids get connected and feel like they belong as well. By the way, if you are moving to the Newberg area, I have a couple other videos that walk you through what it's like living in Newberg. So feel free to check out one of those videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.